These are the basic things you need to know. So these are all the points. These are all the points about var, let, and constants. Okay. Next important point after understanding this, next important option is we are still discussing about how we can configure variables in TypeScript. Another major thing you need to know, some more points about variables you need to know is variable can be declared, initialized or rendered by using those three keywords var, let, and constant. And differences, you are very much clear about these differences. What is var, let, and const. Now we need to know one more option is, so global scope of variables, global scope of variables. Actually, global scope of variables, few important points. That means how a variable is accessible globally everywhere. How do we define the global scope of variables? Generally, so variables, what is the point about this global scope of variables is actually variables can be defined with the global scope by declaring inside, by declaring outside the functions, variables can be defined with global scope by declaring outside the functions. That is the basic point. That means here, so I want a variable to be accessed across several functions. Let's see. Suppose I have function, so we have a function and f1. Okay. I have another function, so the function f2. Okay. We have the function f1 and f2. Okay. And we are calling these functions f1 and f2. These two functions we are calling. Remember, what is a function, how these functions work? These are general JavaScript concept. If you are not aware completely about them, you are going to learn about them in TypeScript, no problem. Initially, if I declare anything here, var x equal to 10, I cannot access that x here. X is equal to, suppose I'm trying to say print console.log. Here x is equal to plus x. I cannot access that x here. Why? Because even you are declaring by using var, it is function scope. That means it is accessible only within that block, right? That means I can access in here. That means console.log x in f1 is equal to, I will print x, and here I am trying to print x in f2. X in f2 is equal to x, but in f2 x is not declared. It is declared only inside the function f1, so it is accessible only in that function. You use var or you use validity or const, it is declared inside a function, so accessible inside that function only. So if I compile and run this, you can see that when I compile that program, and you can see you have a problem, cannot find x, and it is in f2 it cannot find. In f1 it is working fine, but function 1 it is working fine, function 2 it is cannot find, because you use var or let or const, it is available only within the scope. Now I can declare this var. I can declare that variable outside the function. That means var x I declared outside the function. Remember, outside the function, once you declare and it is accessible, let's compile this, and you can see that it is accessible to all functions. So node variable.js, it is accessible to both functions, function 1 and function 2. And remember, the placement is important. And now, can I declare by using let? You can declare by using let also. Why? Because you are declaring let outside these functions. That means now the scope of let is this area. Because let is block scope, na? That means currently in which block you declared, it will work in that block. Now the current block is global. When it is global, then what you can do here, x by declaring let, I will change the value to 20, and I will run this, and I will compile and run this, and x is declared by using let as a global variable. It is also working fine, no problem. Just the placement is important. That means you have to declare outside the functions. Now, can I use constant for that? You can use constant, but problem is constant must be initialized. Na? You cannot declare. Constant must be initialized. That means when I run this, now you will have an error. Error is nothing but it says that constant must be initialized. So important, you have to initialize x sum 30. Now, can you assign or render value into constants? No. Just you initialize here, and you can compile and run this. Const is also allowing, and when I run this, you can see it is working fine. That means the global scope for variable, is variables can be defined in global scope by declaring outside the function. And you can declare or initialize by using var let and const. You can use anything. And a example for this is this. You declare outside, it is accessible everywhere. You declare outside the function, it is accessible everywhere. But you should be careful. If you are saying const, then you cannot declare and render assign. You have to just initialize. If it is var, you can declare. Let, you can declare, and you can render value anywhere you want. That is global scope. There is another point about global scope. So generally, when you are using the TypeScript with browser, that means presentation, because TypeScript intention is for web development, we are using TypeScript. And when you are using TypeScript for web development, and dynamically you are dealing with TypeScript. Now, another important point is when we are working with HTML, one regular requirement will come, and dynamically we can do that. So here it is not directly possible to test, but dynamically we can do that. What is that dynamically doing that? See, if anyone asks as a question, can I declare any variable inside a function? Can I declare any variable inside a function? And it can be global in access. Inside a function, if you declare, By default, anything you declare inside a function is not global in